Welcome back to the Deep Zone for another deep dive. Today we're stripping away the Hollywood version of hacking. You know the one I'm talking about, the guy in the black hoodie.
Oh yeah, sitting in a pitch black room.
Right, typing at light speed, green text scrolling down the screen, breaking into the mainframe in like under 10 seconds.
The whole I'm in trope, it makes for great tension in movies, but honestly, it's terrible security.
Exactly. Because according to the research we're looking at today, we are specifically focusing on Chapter 4, the CompTIA Security Plus Guide. That guy isn't actually the biggest threat to your organization. The biggest threat is, well, it's me.
It's you. It's me. It's the person sitting right in the chair.
Our mission today is really to unpack that. We're doing a deep dive into two massive concepts. First, how attackers exploit human psychology.
The industry calls it social engineering.
And then second, we're looking at the technical methods they use to crack our defenses when those psychological tricks actually fail.
The password attack. So it's basically a journey from psychological warfare to raw, computational brute force.
Love that framing. So let's start with the warfare part. The source material defines social engineering pretty broadly. It says it's manipulating people to accomplish desired actions.
Which covers a lot of ground.
It really does. I mean, my toddler social engineers me for cookies every single afternoon.
Sure, yeah.
So what makes this a literal security threat?
Well, it comes down to intent and impact. Your toddler wants a cookie, but an attacker wants your network credentials. They want your proprietary data or physical access to your server room, but the underlying mechanism is exactly the same.
That's wild.
It exploits the fact that human hardware, our brains, hasn't really had a firmware update in about 10,000 years. We have bugs in our programming.
Human bugs. I like that.
And hackers just call them biases. The entire goal of social engineering is to manipulate people into opening the door from the inside so the attacker doesn't even have to bother picking the lock.
So when Micah mentioned his toddler social engineers a cookie from him, I thought to myself, how many times have I fallen victim to social engineering from my kids? And it's surprisingly high. Some examples are like, Mom said it's okay just to check with you. Is it all right? And I'd say, yeah, it's okay. And then later on, Mom would say, I never said that. It's a classic authority spoofing attack. Or the timing attack where they'd ask, can I blah, blah, blah? And I'd say no. And then 20 minutes later, they ask Mom. And surprisingly, there's a high success rate that Mom says, yes or the opposite of what I would say for that day. Or the classic is, I guess it's that social proof manipulation where everyone in our class is going to do blah, blah, blah. Can we go? And you say, yeah. And it's that, the follow the crowd scenario. It's crazy. Or the persistent attack where you're like, no, you can't. And it's please. And you're like, no. And it's like, please, pretty please, pretty please. And like 100 times later, eventually you break. It's just a brute force authorization that they hit you with. So you have no choice but to break under that pressure. Or the classic policy exploit where it's like, no TV after 9. And then you go check on them at 10 o'clock and you're like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, we're watching YouTube on the iPad. Technically, policy was followed. But again, socially engineered. Are we really this easy to trick?
Surprisingly, yes. And I want to be clear, it's not because we're stupid. It's because we're inherently social creatures. Take the very first principle on the list, authority. We are deeply socially conditioned to obey hierarchy.
If someone reaches out claiming to be the CEO, I just fold?
If the context is right, absolutely. Think about it. If you get an email from the CEO or a phone call from someone claiming to be law enforcement or the IRS.
IRS scams.
Exactly. Your critical thinking often just shuts down. Your brain instantly switches from analyze the situation to comply with the order.
Because questioning the boss feels dangerous.
Right. Attackers know that if they drape themselves in authority, you're way less likely to ask for proof. It feels rude or insubordinate to question them.
Which honestly pairs perfectly with the next principle they mention, which is intimidation.
Yeah, they go hand in hand. Authority is I'm in charge. Intimidation is do this right now or else. It plays entirely on fear.
Like, if you don't transfer these funds, you're fired.
Or if you don't verify your password immediately, your account will be permanently deleted. It forces you into a crisis mode.
When we're in crisis mode, we aren't exactly doing our best fact-checking.
Not at all. We just react defensively to remove the threat as fast as possible.
Okay, there's one here that feels a little less aggressive, but more insidious. The text calls it consensus or social proof. This is where everyone else is doing it. It's the everyone else is doing it trick.
Safety in numbers fallacy. This one is huge. If I message you and say, hey, everyone else in your department has already downloaded this new mandatory security patch, you instantly feel safe.
Because I don't want to be the one guy holding things up.
Exactly. You don't want to be the outlier. The attacker is literally turning your own herd instinct against you.
That makes so much sense. We have scarcity and urgency. Now, these just sound like standard marketing tactics to me. Only 3 items left at this price.
Well, they are marketing tactics, but they're weaponized for security breaches. Scarcity triggers desire. You want the thing that's running out. But urgency. Urgency is the absolute enemy of security.
Why is urgency so dangerous compared to the other triggers?
Because good security requires time. It takes time to hover over a URL and verify it. It takes time to call your manager to double-check a weird request. If an attacker can make you believe you have to act this very second, like the countdown timer is running or the transfer window closes in 2 minutes, they rob you of the time you need to spot the lie.
You forced the mistake by rushing the process.
Precisely.
Okay,
The last 2 principles mentioned in the material are familiarity and trust.
are these basically just good cop tactics?
Essentially, yes. Familiarity is pretty surface level. It's the attacker saying, hey, I saw on LinkedIn you went to State University, go Tigers.
Just building basic rapport.
Right. It lowers your guard because we tend to like people who are like us. Trust, on the other hand, is much deeper. A sophisticated attacker might spend weeks or even months building a relationship with you just to cash in that trust for one specific exploit later down the line.
The text actually describes a combo attack, where a bunch of these triggers come together at once. It was a scenario involving a penetration tester. Can you walk us through that? Because it sounded like an absolute nightmare day at the office.
Oh, it's a classic real-world scenario. Imagine you're at your desk, the phone rings, the caller says, hi, I'm the executive assistant to the senior VP.
Authority.
Right. Then they say, the VP is about to step into a massive board meeting and needs these quarterly files emailed immediately, or heads are going to roll.
Urgency mixed with intimidation.
Exactly. And maybe they throw in a little familiarity by name dropping. You know how Steve gets when he's stressed out.
Wow, I could totally see how that works. In the moment, you aren't thinking about data classification protocols.
No, you're thinking, I really don't want to get fired, and I want to be the helpful employee who saves the day. The social engineer has successfully hijacked your amygdala, the emotional center of your brain, and totally bypassed your logic.
So that's the psychology. Let's shift to the delivery mechanism. How do these attacks actually reach us? The most famous term the text brings up is, obviously,
Right. Phishing is the broad overarching category. It's the fraudulent acquisition of information, usually credentials or credit cards, via electronic communication. But the landscape has really fractured recently into what the text calls the ishings.
The ishings. That sounds like a terrible indie band name.
It really does.
Let's break them down.
So standard phishing is almost always email-based. Then you have smishing.
Which is SMS phishing.
Correct. Text messages. Your package delivery failed. Click here to reschedule. Or here is your bank MFA verification code. Click to confirm.
I get those package ones all the time.
We all do. And they are highly dangerous because we inherently trust our phones more than our desktop computers. We assume a text message is personal.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Then there's phishing. Voice phishing. Now, this one honestly surprises me.
Yeah.
Do people actually still fall for phone scams in a corporate setting?
All the time. Phishing is incredibly effective because of that human element we just talked about. You hear a human voice, you hear background noise, maybe a little call center clatter, and it just feels real.
It grounds the lie.
Exactly. Phishing is often used for high-stakes attacks, like wire fraud, convincing someone to help a relative stuck in another country, or getting an IT help desk person to reset an executive's password over the phone.
Now, the text makes a very clear distinction regarding who is being targeted. Not all phishing is just casting a wide net.
Right.
No, not at all. Most phishing is a dragnet. I send 10,000 emails hoping for 10 naive victims. But spear phishing, that is hunting. I know exactly who you are. I know you're the junior accountant at Acme Corps. I know your boss's name is Sarah. I craft the email specifically for you using details that make it incredibly believable.
What if I'm not the junior accountant? What if I'm the CEO?
Then it's called whaling.
Whaling. Going after the big fish.
Big fish, big harpoons, targeting the C-suite. These attacks require a massive amount of effort because executives usually have better security layers. They have assistants filtering their emails.
But the payoff is worth it.
The payoff is massive. If I compromise the CFO's email account, I can authorize millions of dollars in wire transfers.
What's the defense against this? Technical filters?
Technical filters help, but the text emphasizes that awareness and continuous training are the real defenses. Staging periodic phishing exercises to keep employees on their toes.
That leads us right into the concept of impersonation and false realities. It's not just asking for info anymore, it's pretending to be someone else entirely. The text introduces this term called pretexting. Is that really just a fancy cybersecurity word for lying?
It's a fancy word for the script. Pretexting is creating the elaborate, made-up scenario, the pretext, that justifies why the attacker is approaching you in the first place.
Okay, give me an example.
So, if I show up at your corporate headquarters wearing a generic delivery uniform, that's impersonation. But if I say, hey, I'm here to fix the broken HVAC unit on the 4th floor, here's my work order number, that story is the pretext. It gives you a logical reason to let me in. It makes the impersonation believable.
And in the digital world, the manifest says BEC, B-E-C, business email compromise.
Yes, and BEC is one of the most financially damaging forms of attack in the world right now. It's high-stakes impersonation.
And can you walk us through how this actually works? Because I feel we can spot a fake email if it's asking us for money.
You might not, though. Imagine your company hired a legitimate contractor to renovate the office lobby. You've been emailing back and forth with billing at contractor.com for 6 weeks. Everything is fine. Then, right when the project finishes, you get an email from them. Hey, just a heads up. We recently switched banks. Please send the final invoice payment of $50,000 to this new routing number.
The logo is right. The signature block is right.
The tone is perfect because they are using the actual brand templates. But if you look incredibly closely, the email address is actually billing at contracore.com. It's just missing the letter T.
Oh, wow.
Or even worse, they actually compromised the real email account. So it literally is coming from the exact right address.
Because of the history, the pretext, I just couldn't
pay it.
Exactly. And the 50 grand is just gone.
It's generally terrifying. And speaking of terrifying, the text zooms from individual companies to the social level, information warfare. This is where we get into the acronym MDM.
Right. Misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. This is basically social engineering applied to an entire population. Think about the influence campaigns during the recent U.S. elections.
Now, before we dig into this, I want to make it super clear to the listener. The text points out that these campaigns happen across the political spectrum. We are looking objectively at the mechanics here, not taking any political sides. We just want to understand how the information spreads.
Exactly. It's about the tactics.
So we hear these terms thrown around on the news constantly. What is the actual technical difference between misinformation and disinformation? Is it just semantics?
No, it all comes down to intent. Misinformation is simply being wrong. It's getting the facts wrong without malice. It's spreading rumors or errors without realizing they are false.
Like your uncle sharing a fake news article on Facebook because he genuinely thinks it's real?
Exactly. He's not trying to destroy democracy. He's just misinformed. Disinformation, however, is a weapon. It is intentionally and knowingly spreading false information to deceive, confuse, or manipulate public opinion.
It's calculated.
Highly calculated. And then malinformation is using true information, but twisting it or releasing it out of context specifically to cause harm.
The text mentions a defense strategy for this from CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. It's called the trust model. Is this how organizations fight back against these massive campaigns?
It is. It's essentially a crisis management framework. Trust stands for tell, ready, understand, strategize, and track. And that first one is arguably the most important. Tell your story.
Why is telling your story the most critical step?
Because disinformation thrives in a vacuum. If a rumor starts about your company or agency and you don't tell the truth about the incident immediately, someone else is going to make up a lie to fill that gap.
So you have to get the facts out fast.
Fast and clearly. Then you ready your team for the fallout, understand the specific nature of the MDM attack, strategize your ongoing response, and track the outcomes to see if your countermeasures are actually working.
You can't just ignore it and hope it goes away.
Not in today's landscape. Silence is almost always interpreted as a guilty confirmation.
Okay, let's shift gears. We've covered hacking people and we've covered hacking populations. Now let's talk about the digital trapdoors. These are the web-based attacks. The first one has my absolute favorite name, the watering hole attack. It reminds me of after work on a Friday.
It's a brilliant strategy, borrowed straight from nature. Think about it. If you want to hunt a gazelle, you don't exhaust yourself chasing it all the way across the savannah.
Right.
You find the specific water source that the herd relies on, and you poison it.
So,
translating that to cyber terms, instead of attacking a highly secure company directly,
you attack a vulnerable website that their employees visit frequently. Let's say there's a local sandwich shop's online menu page that the whole office orders from every Friday, or maybe a super niche industry forum. You infect that specific site with malware.
and then you just wait.
You just wait. When the target employees visit that watering hole on their lunch break, their machines get infected. And then they physically carry that infection right back into the highly secure company network.
It bypasses the firewall entirely because the employee intentionally requested the page. That is incredibly devious.
It is.
Then we have typo squatting.
it's the attack that strictly relies on user error, the fat finger error.
Right. You are trying to go to Amazon, but you type AMASON.com. Attackers buy up all these slightly misspelled domains and set up fake sites that look identical to the real ones just to harvest your login credentials when you inevitably make a typo.
It's simple but effective, but the text contrasts that with a much more technical redirection attack called farming.
How is farming different?
Farming is much nastier because you don't even have to make a typing mistake. The attacker poisons the actual digital roadmap your computer uses to navigate the internet.
Like the DNS.
Exactly. They might modify your local host's file or corrupt the DNS server itself. So you type bank.com perfectly, you hit enter, but your computer has been tricked at the system level into routing you to the attacker's fake IP address instead of the real bank's server.
Did everything right, typed in the right address, didn't click on any sketchy links in the email, but the road signs themselves were changed.
Yep. And without checking for a secure certificate or doing a really careful inspection of the page, you'd never know you're in the wrong.
All right, so let's set the stage for the final act here. Let's say I'm paranoid. I don't trust callers, I don't click links, I verify all my URLs. The social engineering completely failed. Now the attacker is just staring at a locked login screen. It's time for password attacks.
This is where the topic moves away from human psychology and strictly into the realm of math.
Source text makes a big distinction between online and offline attacks. Can we clarify that terminology?
Sure. An online attack means the hacker is actively trying to guess your password on the live, public-facing website. They are interacting with the server in real time. An offline attack means they've managed to steal the back-end database file containing everyone's passwords. They take that file home, and they crack it on their own supercomputers without the live website ever knowing it's happening.
Okay, let's start with the online methods of brute force.
Brute force is exactly what it sounds like. Trying every single possible combination of characters, A, then B, then C, then A, B, A, C. Just grinding through until you get it right.
Hold up. If I try to log in my bank account 5 times with the wrong password, that system locks me out. How does a hacker brute force a live system without triggering that lockout?
That is a great question. If they try 1,000 passwords on one account, they fail. So they use a variation called password spraying. This is a crucial distinction for the listener to grasp.
Okay, how does spraying work?
Instead of attacking one account 1,000 times, you turn the attack 90 degrees. You take one highly common password, let's say summer 2025, and you try that single password against 1,000 different user accounts.
So you never hit the lockout limit for a single person.
Exactly. You only try once per user. And statistically, if you try summer 2025 across a massive company, somebody in that directory is definitely using it.
That is frustratingly smart. Now, let's talk about the offline attacks, because this is where it gets highly technical. We have dictionary attacks and rainbow tables.
Dictionary attack is pretty straightforward. Instead of guessing random gibberish characters, the cracking software runs through massive lists of actual words, common phrases, sports team chants, movie quotes, Star Wars 1, 2, 3, password 1, things humans actually use.
Because we're predictable, but rainbow tables, I've always found this concept a bit tricky. The text mentioned pre-computed hashes. Can you break that down?
Definitely. But we have to understand hashing first. When a secure company saves your password to their database, they don't save the actual word secret. That would be reckless. They run the word secret through a complex mathematical algorithm that scrambles it into a long, fixed string of garbage characters. That garbage string is the hash.
It's like a digital fingerprint of the password.
Perfect analogy. And the crucial key here is that hashing is a one-way street. Think of it like a cow and a hamburger. You can easily turn a cow into a hamburger, but you absolutely cannot reverse the process and turn a hamburger back into a cow.
Okay, that is a great mental image.
So if a hacker steals the database of hamburgers, the hashes, they can't just read the original passwords. They have to figure out which original cow made which specific hamburger.
So where does the rainbow table come in? What does it do?
A rainbow table is essentially a massive cheat sheet. The hacker has already, offline, calculated the hash for every single word in the dictionary. They have a giant terabyte-sized database where column A is password 123 and column B is the resulting hash for password 123.
So they're not really cracking the code in real time.
No, not at all. They are just doing a rapid lookup. It's exactly like looking up a phone number in a phone book. They see the stolen hash from the database, they search for that exact hash in their rainbow table, and boom, they instantly know the original password is password 123. It turns a process that could take years into a process that takes milliseconds.
That sounds completely undefendable. If the table already exists, aren't we just doomed?
We would be, but there is a brilliant mitigation technique called salting.
We're back in the kitchen with the hamburger.
We are indeed. Salting means the system automatically adds a string of totally random data to your password before it gets hashed. So instead of just hashing the word secret, the system hashes secret plus a random string like X7, F9 at Z.
Which means the resulting hash fingerprint is going to be totally
completely unique. Even if two different users happen to choose the exact same password of secret, the system gives them different salts, which results in totally different hashes in the database.
And does that actually stop the rainbow table?
Completely destroys it, because the hacker's rainbow table was built on the standard hash for the word secret. It doesn't have a pre-computed entry for secret plus X7, F9 at Z. It forces the attacker to throw out their cheat sheet and go back to the incredibly slow, hard work of guessing from scratch.
That's just incredible. It's a constant arms race. Hackers build rainbow tables, so security professionals invent salting.
It always is. And there's even peppering, which is adding a secret value to the hash that isn't stored in the same database, but salting is the primary defense you need to know.
So we've covered a massive amount of ground today, from psychology of a fake VP phone call to hardcore math of salting, a password hash, and if the listener can take one core thing away from this entire deep zone deep dive, what should it be?
Main takeaway from the CompTIA material is that we often focus our anxiety on the wrong things. We worry about advanced zero-day exploits and nation-state hackers. But the reality is the vast majority of breaches happen because someone was trying to be helpful, someone was scared of their boss, or someone just used a weak, predictable password.
It's all about human predictability.
It is. Social engineering exploits our predictable nature to trust others. And password attacks exploit our predictable laziness with credentials.
The text mentions technical tools like multi-factor authentication, MFA, and spam filters, which obviously help. But it really seems like the ultimate patch for these vulnerabilities is us.
Critical thinking is your best firewall. You have to train yourself to start responding and start verifying. If you feel that sudden panic rising in your chest, that urgency we talked about, that is your primary red flag. Stop, verify the request, call the person back using a verified internal number, not the phone number they just gave you in the email.
Before we wrap up, we want to leave the listener with thoughts that builds on what we've discussed. We talked earlier about vishing, which is voice phishing, and we know AI technology is getting terrifyingly good at cloning human voices.
It's the next major frontier for social engineering. We are already seeing documented attacks where AI is being used to mimic executives' voices in real time over the phone.
So think about that. If an attacker can not only spoof your CEO's email address perfectly, but also call you up with an absolutely flawless real-time clone of the CEO's actual voice, how do you verify anyone's identity in that world if you can't even trust your own ears?
A genuinely scary thought. We might have to go completely retro to solve it.
Like paper and pen.
Establishing safe words or challenge questions with your boss or your finance team or even your family members. Setting up a protocol offline, in person, before you ever trust anything they ask you to do digitally.
Secret handshake for the AI age. I really like that.
Might eventually be the only way to be absolutely sure.
Well, on that slightly paranoid but very practical note, thank you so much for guiding us through the human vulnerabilities of security today.
Anytime. Happy to help unpack it.
And to everyone listening, stay safe out there, verify absolutely everything, and for the love of everything holy, don't click that link.
Thanks again for joining us in the Deep Zone for another deep dive. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Stay safe out there.
This is Lux, Micah, and Naughty saying, stay classy, Internet.